Okay, so now we're going to talk about thesis development. Now, one of the things that we talked about over the last, there we go. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit how to develop a thesis. Now, originally the research question for what ultimately landed in as a thesis statement was asking about foreign policy between the USA and the USSR in the late 40s and 50s influenced the USA-USSR competition to get to the moon through the 1960s. But actually, the evidence from research really shifted around my research question quite a bit, because basically I was trying to look for what was the fulcrum, the thing that made basically USSR relinquish its lead, which was proven by Sputnik in 57 and Gagarin in 61. What was the fulcrum? What was the thing that shifted US to actually landing on the moon in 69? And the research really kept pointing to this one thing. This was really a policy shift in the Kennedy administration. May 1961, they appealed to Congress for $7 to $9 billion, and bam, the U.S. really took the lead, ultimately landing on the moon in 1969. Okay, so if this is what my evidence has uncovered, then this is an effective thesis statement, right? So you have the two yellows is the point counterpoint, and in between is the green, which is really the fulcrum of my seesaw, right? And so the question is, does it meet the standard? Yes. Is it provable, arguable, insightful, and specific? And the answer is yes. Okay, so here's another example. To what extent did Senator Joseph McCarthy's anti-communism campaign play a role in escalating the fear of communism amongst American voters from 47 to 51? All right, very specific, about a specific person's campaign, escalation, specific years, all very focused. All right, so the background is before McCarthyism in 44, 30% of respondents voiced concern about domestic communism in the US. All right, that was based on a poll extracted from a database that we have of polls, public opinion surveys called Roper iPoll. I highly recommend that you visit that. It's really excellent. And then in 1952, basically, we saw, and this is like in the heart of McCarthyism and the House of Un-American Activities Committee hearings, really like getting widespread attention from Americans. So then the fear of domestic communism escalated to 48%. And then by 1960, and this is all part of the election of 1952 and the election of 1960, these were polls that were coming out right around the time of those elections and asking voters, how important is this issue to you? And then by 1960, it was less than 0.5%. So the thing we want to know is, how did we escalate from 30% in 44 to 48% in 52? And then to 0.5% in 60 in terms of concern over domestic communism. Granted, 1960 we were very concerned with international communism, but we weren't as concerned about domestic communism here in the U.S. So, and further research shows that really it was the House Un-American Activities Committee hearings in 1945 to 1952, and then in 1954 there were a couple of television programs that came out that really shifted thinking on McCarthy, and then by the time 1960 rolled around, people weren't nearly as concerned. So what kind of thesis statement can you extract from that? Here is a thesis statement. Very long, 2 sentences, but it actually gets to the heart of it. You can see the point counterpoint are the yellow, and it talks about what kind of evidence we looked at. So we have metrics to go by to measure the shift, and then it talks about the tipping point. So the question is, does it meet the standard, and is it provable? Yes. Is it arguable? Yes. Is it insightful? Yes. Is it specific? Yes, very. So we've met the standard. All right, good luck with your thesis development, NCHSers.